and I'm going to let Sarah come in as well. I think we were expecting 13 people, but this is a nice number. If only 6 of us can turn up, it's good. Hi.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm great. So nice to see you.
Yeah, you too as well. Wow. Wonderful.
Yes, I love it.
Thank
Reunion.
Yeah, I know. I'm just thinking, how long did we go back? It's 20.
It was probably like 2013, maybe.
Oh
2013,
no.
2014. Because I was writing Hustle, Believe, Receive in 15, so maybe 14, because I feel like we were working together before I was writing that.
That's amazing. I didn't realize it was so far back.
We're old school, Nikki.
Yeah. And it's so funny because I just, I always go back to you, obviously, because you're the start of my journey, and where this group is now, what is happening with me, with this group, with intuitive expression, everything I dreamed of in those moments on my future boards, it's there. And it's just like, as we'd always say, just keep going, just do the hustle, just keep moving forward, never give up. And then when it goes, and it
really does. It's so awesome to see, and I love it. And my group, I had Nikki in my group, ladies, 2 weeks ago, maybe something like that.
Yeah.
Well, it was her second time, because I'm such a big fan of her Reiki work. She helped me clear a lot of blocks way back in the day, before I really knew what blocks were. And literally, like, after I had you the last time, every single time I get on a call, another person's like, I just got off my emotion code with Nikki. I just got off my call with Nikki. So thanks for helping clear all those too.
Honestly, thank you so much. I got so many people, not only from this time, but from the podcast that we did. And
yeah.
A lot of people in this group have also listened to the podcast that we did together.
Oh, I love it.
They've all been looking you up and looking your book up. Some people have got your book.
I love it. Well, Nikki, ladies, is featured in the first book.
Yeah,
she's in Hustle, Believe, Receive.
Yeah,
that's right, baby.
That found me in there. Yeah, and I mean, everybody from that group, they've had amazing emotion code sessions, and so thank you so much for that. They still keep coming in.
Yeah. Have you ladies done some of the emotion code and Reiki stuff yet with Nikki? You'll have to. All you need is one session. No, you need more than that, but one session will really rock your world. It does.
Yes. Yeah.
What should we talk about today, Nikki?
Well, I was looking at mindset, because honestly, everything's just so perfectly timed, because the last week they've been working about letting go. So letting go of blocks, letting go of everything that's holding them back. And then we're also coming into, because they're on a 6-week program, 6-week training course to be holding their own classes. And so the first part has been inner work, and this is bang in the middle before we get on to the next part, which is all going to be about setting up your own classes. And some of them I know have already come up with, can I really do this? I'm not an artist, or so it's all about mindset and how to really release those blocks.
So much. Yeah, so much. So why don't we start by talking about the story we tell ourselves? That's one of my favorite places to start, because, I think we are our thoughts and our belief system about who we are as a human being, right? Like how we would describe ourselves to somebody, whether we would say things like, oh, I'm a procrastinator, or, oh, I'm just not a morning person, or, oh, I'm this, that, or the other thing, right? We think of all of those types of descriptions as just who we are as a person, right? They just, no big deal. I'm just not the person that gets up early in the morning or whatever. And what I am so passionate about is, because it's changed my life so much, is helping women especially understand that all of that is subjective. Literally everything to be true about yourself is completely subjective. So if you were to sit down and write a description of who you think you are, and just say, I'm this kind of friend, I'm this kind of artist, I'm this kind of mother, if you are one, right? Just write out all those descriptions of the things that you daily say about yourself, or, kind of the way you see yourself. and just put a little asterisk on everything that you would like to change, right? Because if you can kind of look at that and say, hey, if I've never been a morning person, I can train myself to be a morning person. I could be at a place 6 months from now where that's just what I say about myself because it's true, because I, get up early and I do all those things, right? So what are the pieces of our story that don't serve us anymore? And certainly if as artists, you're building a name for yourself, a reputation, and probably a business, it sounds like, right, Nikki?
Yeah.
Then the belief that you are is really critical to your success, right?
Yeah.
It's critical to any financial success you have in that arena. If you are questioning your ability the entire time, right? And you're saying, well, I'm trying to be an artist. Well, I play at being an artist. Well, I pretend to be an artist. You will never be the paid artist you want to be.
And I mean, this is what's come up as well. But, thinking about the holding classes, I know somebody actually said to me, well, how will I ever find clients?
Mm-hmm.
And that's always a bigger thing. Okay, I can set up to be a facilitator, but in the end, I may not have anybody to come to my classes.
Mm-hmm. But that is that's a belief system.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. And so if you start to just listen to the words that come out of your mouth and start to pay attention to the thoughts that are banging around in your head, I want you to do just one thing. Just say, can I see a self-fulfilling prophecy in that statement? Right. So if you just start to pay attention to what it is you're thinking, which is the hardest part of all of this, is just kind of that awareness, because we're thinking 80 million thoughts a day. But if we can start to hone in and say, as I'm doing the dishes, what am I thinking about? Am I telling myself that whole time that I'm a crap artist, that I'm never going to get clients, that I'm never going to be successful? Right. So you can do that and do the dishes at the same time, right, ladies? We have all these internal dialogues that are happening in layers. I want you to start paying attention to that so you can stop it, because that voice is manifesting the fact that you won't have clients. Yeah. It's actually lining everything up in your universe to make sure you do not get clients. And that sucks, right? You don't want to go to all this work and be in a position where you don't get the reward for the work. Nikki knows that I had to remove a lot of those blocks, change a lot of that story for myself. Growing up very poor, I had to kind of overcome a lot of that in order to get to the place where I was receiving the money instead of blocking the money, receiving the clients instead of blocking the clients. And we block them by our thoughts, by saying things like, well, I'm not going to get those clients, or my business is not going to be successful, or what if it's not successful, right? All of those things are actually creative statements. So they're out there working their butt off to become true. And I hope that's really scary, because it should be really scary. So if that is true, and it just is, look back on your life and do a quick inventory and say, hey, what are the 5 things I think about the most or stress about the most? And then ask yourself, does that at all look like my current reality? And you're going to see a real quick correlation. Right? So then you have your own proof. You're like, okay, so this works in the negative very clearly, which is where I started back in the day. I said, well, I don't know if it works in the positive. I have no idea, but I'm going to look at the negative, and I can see without question of a doubt that it works exactly, literally exactly what I was afraid would happen happened every time. Exactly what I was stressed about is what my reality was over and over and over again. So I was like, well, I don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out that there's a correlation there. So, right, the other side has to be equally as true. And that's where I started 10 years ago, is just saying, I have no evidence and no proof that it can work in the positive, because I've never tried this before. And it sounds a little too good to be true, or too crazy, or too whatever, but I have nothing to lose. I've already been manifesting so much negative that I have nothing to lose. I'm willing to go all in. And so literally you just start flipping it. It's that basic and that simple. And I think a lot of times we try to make it so much harder than it is, but it is as simple as reversing the statement. So as you're doing the dishes and that voice in your head is saying, why are you bothering? You're doing all of this to build your company and you're never going to get clients. I want you to pause and be like, holy crap, that's what's happening in my head right now. Stop. And then just flip it and just say, I'm building a powerful business. I'm going to have clients lining up around the corner, right? So you are actively guiding that voice in your head. You're actively guiding your thoughts. And anybody successful out there, Oprah, you know, the Steve Jobs of the world, you name them, they all talk about this, right? That your success begins in your head, right? Your success begins with your thoughts. Your success begins with the story that you tell yourself. And so in that very first, you know, those first couple weeks, when you're reversing those statements, I call it mental tennis. It's like bouncing it back. There's going to be another voice in your head that's going to call BS, right? It's going to be like, that's bullshit. That's not true. You're not successful. You know, it's going to try and argue. But you have to be determined enough and say, I am going to rewrite this script. And here's the awesome part, ladies, is it really takes about 10 days. That's it. It takes 10 days to start changing that voice, not just covering it up and putting a little Band-Aid on it by saying, oh, everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. That traditional positive thinking stuff is not what we're talking about here, because that's a Band-Aid on a bullet wound.
No.
Nothing's changing, right? So what we want to do is we want to actually change the story to change the reality, right? So if we're starting to say, I am super successful, I have clients on a wait list, everyone wants to work with me, I can't believe how busy I am, I can't believe how much I'm getting paid for this work, it's triple what I ever thought I'd be paid, right? So we are laying a foundation for the future to happen, right? It's almost like we're creating the road. If you think of, like, you know, driving in a forest, that's going to be pretty hard, right? If there's no road and you're, you know, trying to navigate your car, if you can start laying a road, even if it's 5 miles ahead, 10 miles ahead, you can start to go, right? You can start to get momentum. You can start to get moving. And so that is literally what we're doing. We're creating a new path for a future to happen. And without that, you will never get there. You'll never get there, because you're just going to go like a hamster round, because there'll be no direction, right? There'll be nothing created for you to follow. And so it literally just starts here. And I don't want you to wait till you feel that way to make those changes, right? I don't want you to wait till you feel successful to tell yourself you're successful. You have to tell yourself you're successful when you are not, right? When there's no evidence to back that up, because that's laying the road. Does that kind of make sense? Does that help a little bit, Nikki?
That's totally, you know, it's so funny because so many times people, you know, would ask me what I'd always want to do, or they would ask me about my dream. And I always describe myself as an artist, and always describe myself as holding, you know, I'm holding workshops to do with my art. And all the time I just kept speaking what I want to do, but I kept speaking it also in the present tense, which is probably what you're going to come to anyway. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, the negative voices, you know, that they've changed completely. That, you know, they don't exist.
Yeah, exactly. So
every time it comes in, you change it.
Yeah, and I remember this so clearly about you, Nikki, because literally the first thing that comes to mind when I think of you is you saying probably 3 things: South of France, painting, workshops, and retreats, right? Like those are the things that came up in every single conversation we had.
Yeah.
And ladies, when I knew Nikki, like this was all a dream, right? She hadn't moved to South of France yet. You were still, right? This was before you moved. And so all of that had to be created somewhere. And I think a lot of times people are waiting for the door to open and for them to be like actually in the South of France before they start talking about being there, right? Because maybe they're afraid of people judging them, or maybe they're afraid they won't make it, or whatever. Here's the thing: if you don't start talking about it a year before or 2 years before, you're never going to land there just magically. And so doing the work, you know, that she had done years ago about identifying those dreams, talking about those dreams, telling people about those dreams, and actively hustling towards them, got her there, got her here, right? Where, you know, she's doing this and has a successful business, and this is all you do, right? It's the thing you love. And, you know, the same has been true for me. I walked away from a corporate, very nice job that I had worked very, very hard for many, many years, to start doing this full time, and had no idea what I was doing, and probably in a similar position that maybe a lot of you are if you're just starting your passion business. Had no idea, literally no experience being an entrepreneur. I really didn't know anyone who was, but was very passionate about what I was teaching and what I was doing, and followed these exact, you know, wrote it down every single day, visualized it, told myself every single day who I was becoming. And I love that phrase, because I think a lot of times it's hard for us to jump right into I am already. I am a successful artist. I am a successful business owner. You know, my work is in demand. But you can start by saying, I am becoming. And to me, that is an action, right? That's every single day I'm making the choice to become more and more like the person I was put on this planet to be.
So much.
Yeah, and getting that clarity helps a ton. You have to really look at the future and say, okay, if I was more successful than I ever imagined, what would that look like? So I have a little something for you. I want you to write down what you imagine success to look like right now, like where your imagination can take it. You can put dollar amounts around things, whether you're selling your art or getting workshops or whatever. And then when you have all that down and it kind of looks a little bit like a scratch pad business plan, then I want you to say, what would 10x that look like? What would 20x that look like, right? So that's what we're talking about, is when we're blowing out the box and we're saying, I really want to see what's beyond where my brain can go right now. So if that was my reality 5 years from now, what would my life look like? Literally everything about your life would change, right? If you were 10 times more successful than you can imagine as you sit here today, a lot's going to change about your life. Where you live, probably who you know, what you do on a daily basis, what you're able to do, the car you drive, probably how you dress, like literally everything changes the more and more successful you become. And people think that's a very bad thing. It's a wonderful thing. We're supposed to be changing, right? That's why we're putting in this work, is to be successful and to impact other people, but we also want the reward for it as well. But most people don't ever think about that, and they don't plan for it. And they don't know how the abundance or the success will change them. And so then they start blocking it all because it all seems scary, right? And they're like, oh God, my life's going to change. That's really scary to me. I think I'm going to do some self-sabotaging behavior and shut these clients down, right? So it's important to kind of map that out from the beginning and to get super excited about those changes coming, and get as visual as you can about it, daydream about it as much as you can, so that your life is constantly expanding in a way that lines up with your happiness.
And this isn't just about, you know, if anybody's on here that isn't wanting to start up a business, this applies to every area of your life. Whatever, you know, success, it can also be about your weight, it can be about having a happy family, it can be wherever you want. If this isn't applying to you as a business, you apply it to anywhere else, you know, you can in your life where you want to be.
Absolutely. And you apply it to manifesting the love of your life, to you know, achieving that big goal that you had written down 10 years ago that you wanted to do, whether you want to write a book or run a marathon, whatever, right? So Nikki knows this, but everything I teach, I call it cut and pasteable. So insert dream here. It does not matter what your dream is. I've literally helped people manifest anything and everything under the sun, from babies to mansions to whatever. So everything that I'm talking about, you apply it to, you know, kind of whatever it is that you're working on, whether you're working on just kind of upgrading your whole life, or, you know, achieving that next level of success, or bringing in people that maybe your life doesn't have right now, whether that's mentors or the love of your life or family or whatever. You can use it for all of it. But everything is always going to come back to what you tell yourself.
Exactly.
Always, always, always. So if you're wanting to manifest love, let's say, or lose weight, either of those are great examples. If I'm telling myself, I'll take weight loss for one, because that's something I've dealt with pretty much my whole life. And my whole life, I had been telling myself this story that no matter what I do, I don't lose weight. And I wasn't saying that as like, oh, poor me. I was saying that like, this is an insane fact. Like I had so much proof. I had hired every nutritionist, every trainer. I wasn't sitting on the couch going, wah. I was like busting my ass and nothing was changing. And I was like, I'm a scientific experiment. Like, this is insane. How is this even possible? And I had so many people that I'd worked with that was like, oh, please, you know, that's not a big deal. Work with me and everything will change. And a couple months would go by and they'd be like, okay, you're right. You are a scientific. Like, I don't understand this either. Right. So for me, it had gotten to the point where that belief was so proven and so concrete that it literally made everyone just kind of scratch their head and be like, I don't know. Right.
Oh, I think we've lost Sarah. Ah, oops. By the way, while on the pause, if anybody has any questions, write them in the chat box. If anything else is coming
Then
up.
one day about
you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you went off.
Okay. I don't know at what point I went off, but so about 1.5 years ago, I had this thought that was like, and in this example, I'd had so much concrete proof, right? So when you get to that point, your brain is very resistant to change because it's like, listen, the proof is black and white. It's not me telling myself this, that, or the other thing. It just is what it is, right? So I thought, okay, I've tried literally everything under the sun. What if I tried to just tell myself that the weight falls off and I can't believe it's this easy, which was the exact opposite of the core belief that no matter what I did, I couldn't lose weight. And so I'm like, all right, I'm just going to do this as an experiment. And so I did it for 30 days. And with that, I said, I'm just going to move my body, AKA like walk the dog. Those are the only 2 things I changed. I lost 11 pounds in a month. I hadn't lost 11 pounds in like 22 years. And I was like, okay, talk about some concrete proof, right? So what you tell yourself is the exact reality you're living across the board. And if that's true, then that means it's all subjective and it's all changeable. So you can look at anything and just say, hey, what if I flip the script on this? Would I start getting a new outcome? So my little thing on mindset, I could go on for a million years on mindset.
Yeah, and I remember you as well about the weight loss. You know, you were just going hell for leather at the gym. I mean, that was going way, way back.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've done it my whole life. I ran a marathon in 2015, trained to run a marathon twice in my life. I've literally done all the things, but here's the issue that is going to happen with you on any of the stories you tell yourself, right? Which is what was happening to me on the weight. I was doing all the work, all the hustle, right? Training for a marathon, doing all this crazy stuff. But my belief system says, Sarah, no matter what you do, your results will not change. And the belief system drives results always, 100% of the time. So a lot of times we don't even know that's our belief. Literally, I've been doing this awareness work for years, and that specific light didn't go on until 1.5 years ago for me. So that just tells you how buried it can be, right? I didn't put those 2 together until 1.5 years ago. But the belief is just core in us, right? And so it's the thing that is going out trying to prove itself correct, no matter what. So a good example is like, if you buy a red, whatever, Toyota car, let's say, all of a sudden, all you see on every highway is red Toyota cars. You're like, what the heck? I thought I was being original. It's the same thing. So that belief is going out there trying to find its match. Always, always, always. So when I was doing all the hustle and all the work, and the belief is saying it doesn't matter what you do, you're not going to lose weight, the 2 were fighting each other. They were warring each other, and so nothing would change, right? So when I started to say, I can do this and it's actually really easy and I love doing this and this is not hard, the two started working together to get the result. Does that kind of make sense? So that is what can happen with your business, with your love. If you're saying if your core belief is like, I am unlovable, even if that's something you would never consciously say to yourself, but if way down deep that's your belief, then you're repelling love, right? And all the things you're doing, you might be out there actively trying to find it, but the signal that's being sent is to repel it. So once you can kind of line the thought and the action up to get that belief to change, it just changes everything. And it's not as hard as we think it would be, really.
And obviously, the way, I remember you saying as well that the way how we recognize a belief, even if we don't actually hear it, is look in your life and see where it's blocking. Like for you, it was weight. Somebody else, it might be finding their love of their life. It's wherever you're blocking in your life, that's where the belief is lying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think one of the things why I love working with Nikki so much is, when you're doing a lot of the conscious things, and I think all of us on here are consciously working on what we want, right? Or else we wouldn't be here. And you're like, I'm doing all the things I'm supposed to do, but there's still something that I know is standing in my way because I'm not getting the results I want, but I have no idea what it is. That's when, I literally, still to this day, be like, Nikki, I need a session, because there is that unconscious layer in us, that comes from childhood, comes from a lot of things, right? That we may not be aware of. And so I love the work that Nikki does in emotion code and Reiki, because I always see it as working from the root up, and I'm doing all this conscious stuff and they meet in the middle and kind of clear it out. So it's really, really powerful.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I mean, obviously with the emotion code as well, it's like it's seeing, you see the tip of the iceberg, you don't see what's underwater, and that's where it really shifts. So I do have a gift for everybody in this group. I should tell you in the group afterwards, but you will all benefit from the emotion code at some point.
Oh, I love that. Ladies, what questions do you have? Has anyone here ever done manifesting or kind of practiced some of the stuff that we've been talking about today? Yeah, go ahead. Is that Susie?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is just something that I work with constantly, flipping the script. When I hear, that voice in my head, it's like delete, rephrase, reframe. Just, it's constant. It's just
good. Have you seen any of those kind of recede and the belief change?
Because all the time.
Okay,
all the time. And another thing I do is, I put stuff up where I can see it. Like right now, my big goals are, it says, yes, I can go to bed earlier, get up earlier, and get my taxes done this year. Well, I handed in my taxes back, like 2 months ago, but I'm still waiting for them to come back. So that's still up there.
Nice. So surrounding yourself with those kind of, have you ever done a future board or like a visual board of what you're working with?
Yes.
How has that worked?
It works really, really well. I'm actually overdue on an assignment for a vision board that I was supposed to do like 2 months ago, which may be why, I haven't really had a concrete plan for this year besides just, work on my health.
Yeah. I'm telling you, you ladies should get, so future boards, I'll just real quick, if Nikki doesn't mind. So my latest book is called Future Boards, #FutureBoards. And manifesting like changed my life 12 years ago when I had like this huge rock bottom thing. My life blew up. I found out my husband at the time had been having an affair and just ended my whole world in like 10 minutes, literally. And I had like 3 babies. I had 2 18-month-olds and a 5-year-old. And so my life in 10 minutes, like everything I knew about everything, every plan I'd ever made, how I described myself as a human being, like just everything was gone. Right. And he left me with no income, no job, no nothing. And so from kind of that dramatic low, if you will, that's where I kind of started figuring out this stuff. I didn't know anything about self-help. I didn't, had never read a self-help book. I just watched Oprah. She was like the only self-help I knew at the time. But I just thought literally everything I'd been doing in the past wasn't working. And I could see that. And I could see that like everything I stressed about was my reality and all of that stuff. And so I was like, man, I got to do something different. And so that was kind of the genesis of me beginning to learn these tools and start to make those changes, and keep it very simple, because I was crazy, busy dealing with 3 little babies on my own and then finally getting a job and all that. So I needed things to be super simple. So that's where I just was changing the exact script back, keeping everything very, very simple. But I didn't really expect it to work. It just made me feel better in the moment. And that kind of made me feel like I had a tiny bit of control in one itty bitty area of my life. And that felt good. And so that was it. I had no other expectations beyond that. But it actually started working. And I was like, what the hell? Okay. And I made my first quote vision board very differently than kind of how vision boards are traditionally made. And that was another thing where I was like, I had envisioned what I wanted this new life to be, because I had to kind of start from scratch. And I was imagining what success looked like, and like where I would take my kids when I was successful, and how it would look, and all of those things. I was really putting identifiers around generic words, right? So I wasn't relying on the word success to be on my board. I was defining it. What does it look like for me? And a year and a half after he left, it just literally almost half the board came to life in like a 2-3 month period. So I was going from like food stamps a year and a half later to being like in New York City on business. Like it was a whirlwind. I just could not believe how quickly my life was changing. And so now that's what I do. I teach people how to make future boards and how to change their life and create their life the way they want it, based on a method that just makes sense. It's like common sense. It's how you have already manifested anything you're proud of in your life today. Anything you've accomplished that stands out as a highlight in your life, I guarantee you've probably used all the tools I teach. But the difference is now you know what to do when life throws you a new curveball. You know exactly what to do and exactly the steps to take to get the success and get the result that you want moving forward, which I think is the part most people really struggle with. But I've watched Nikki manifest so much in her life. I know I have as well. So it's pretty incredible if you haven't done it already.
And it isn't, for future boards, it isn't just about, taking pictures of, I want this house, I want this car, and sticking it onto a board, and that's the magic. The real beauty, I remember when I did Sarah's bootcamp for Hustle Believe Receive, it's all the steps, the 12-step process that you go through of releasing the negative beliefs, all the beliefs that we have that really keep us small, and then all the process behind it. And the future board, the actual creation of the future board is almost the last thing that we do, because all the work you do before it. And
there's a lot of work that you do before it, because you have to identify what you want, right? My guess is that that's a question most people, it seems so basic that people overlook it all the time. They're like, oh, of course I know what I want. Please, I wouldn't be here if I didn't know what I want, right? But I challenge you to sit down with a pen and paper and write down what you want for your next 5 years. And you're going to find out you have no idea. And that's crazy, right? Because in our head, we're still hanging on to things that we identified we wanted 10 years ago. Because most of us, especially in America, we stop dreaming at 30. Like we have this dream to get the college education, to get that great job, to get married, to get your kids, and then fall off the planet. Like no one has a single dream or like ambition after that. And so you hit your 30s and definitely your 40s and you're like, what just happened to my life? And if I ask that question, what do you want? Your brain's going to automatically go back to the last time you truly identified it, which was probably in your 20s or 30s, because it's just not something that we do on a regular basis. So without that, you live Groundhog Day over and over and over again. And you're like, God, why does my life feel the same every single day? It's because there's no direction, right? So if you can sit down and really ask yourself, what do I want I teach 5 core categories. What do I want in these 5 categories of my life? Truly want, like, what's the best case scenario? What's the dream scenario? Which I know is scary for people, right? But if you can't create a dream scenario in your head, you are never going to live a best case scenario in reality, right? So you have to give yourself that permission to let go and start to identify what the perfect version of your life looks like, so that it can start to happen. It just, nothing's going to happen without it. Anybody else on here done anything like this in the past or doing it now? No?
Nobody yet.
Oh, good. You're starting.
Because Christine, I think you bought the book, haven't you?
Yes, I do, and I've started reading it. So one thing that you had mentioned in the book, Sarah, was about thinking back on what brings you joy. And it was probably about 10 years ago. I had a morning routine that I would play music and to get ready to go to work, and I had lost all that. And so for the past 3 days, I've gone back to that, because I could shut the door and play the music and get ready and everything. And my life has changed.
Yeah, I love that.
I'm still working full time, but I've been contacted on and asked what will make me happy to continue working for the company. And because they know I want to, I'm outside, I'm taking these painting classes. So they know that I'm coming to a point where I have to make a decision on what I want to do, but they don't want me to leave. And so they're asking, what would make you happy to work on?
Oh, that's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm not very far through the book.
That's awesome.
But just that one change so far. When I look back on my life, I had imagined owning a horse, having it in my backyard, and I did. Before we moved up here to Colorado, I had 2 horses right in my backyard, and I would come in and my face would be so dirty, but I was as happy as I could be.
I love that. Well, I love that you brought that up too, because not only what do we want is a question that gets deeper and deeper, and it's kind of hard to identify, but everything that I kind of teach you how to build out for your future always comes back to what makes you happy. Like, that's the ultimate pivot point that we build everything on, is joy and happiness. So it's your core, it's your center, and you're asking yourself these questions. What do I want in my relationships? That brings me happiness. What do I want in my career? That brings me happiness. What do I want in my finances? That brings me happiness. So we're tagging everything back. And the magic behind that is that as your life starts to expand and grow and up level, you are happy in the whole journey, right? Doesn't mean every day is perfect and beautiful, but it means that everything you're creating is lining up with not only what you want, but what brings you joy and what actually makes you be freaking thrilled to be on the planet, right? And happy to be alive. And so as you're building that out, and as that continues to grow, you're automatically avoiding a lot of those stereotypes. People are afraid of success. Like, oh, I'm afraid if I get successful, no one's going to be around. I'm going to have money and, more money, more problems, blah, blah, blah. But if everything I'm building is based on my core happiness and on my joy, then I'm not dealing with that, right? I'm not building a life that is just things and no people, and on and on.
I've just got a goosebump when you're talking about that. Absolutely, because it really is that.
All the difference in the world. I have a whole, one of those 5 sections is passions and joy. It's like, literally, what do you do on a daily basis that brings you joy? Do you know how to find that? Do you know how to tap into it? Because if you don't, you're going to be searching for everything to give you happiness and everything to give you joy, and nothing ever will.
Yeah.
But if you know how to access joy by, for me, I love cooking. If I cook for an hour, my kids love it, and I have my Pavarotti on and my glass of wine, and that gives me an hour of joy, right? That I just was able to disconnect from everything and just be in the moment, just be happy and let go. Then I know I have joy in my pocket. I can get it anytime I want. I'm not waiting for someone to bring it to me. I'm not waiting to land a huge check to feel that. I'm creating it. And so whenever you're doing that, you're actually manifesting times 10. So when you're feeling that joy, the universe is like, oh, I got to give her more of that. I got to find ways to give her more of that. And so you're just in that manifesting sweet spot.
I always have this idea that we all have this happiness bucket within. And it's us to fill that happiness bucket to the brim with, like you said, that everything that brings us joy. So that in the end, that happiness bucket is so full that anybody else that brings us happiness, like within a partnership with work, it's the extra. And not waiting for that other person, that other thing on the outside of us to fill it, because that's where the dependency starts to happen.
Yep. And it's
this bucket to dive into.
Yeah, and it's incredible to know that you know how to make yourself happy. I mean, I wish I knew that. God, I wish I knew that before I was 40, what an amazing gift that is. I'm teaching my children that, you're not out there looking for it, so that you're able to actually attract things that are good for you in your life. And, things that expand on that happiness, but you're not like a hole searching to be filled.
Does anybody else have any questions? Or where you've been blocking in your life? Because there have been lots been coming about letting go as well. Letting go of fear, letting go of worry.
Yes. We do. I do a whole kind of section on letting go of kind of the three main blocks that I deal with a lot with clients is money, number one. And it's interesting because I think women especially can hold money blocks, whether you're super successful and have a lot of money or not. And that was, something that I've seen and done a lot of work on in the last probably 5 years, because your blocks can be, I won't spend any money because I'm afraid I have to save it all or else I'm not going to be okay. Right. So that can be a block as much as overspending can be a block. So we do this whole kind of process of identifying what those beliefs are, what those fears are, and then releasing them. And then worthiness is our second block that, God, I think we all deal with in some way or another, because it pops up in all kinds of weird ways in our life. And then the third one is something I call a low-key martyr, which is that kind of victim mindset, which is kind of almost like the buffer to other things. It's the one that says, you know what, I don't need all that. I'm fine the way I am, that type of thing. But it can really turn into a victim mindset, which can block us from all the things that we want. We just have to kind of strip it away and get honest with ourselves, so that we can move forward and really step into the life that we want to have, versus kind of believing the BS we tell ourselves.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's so funny about money, because I remember one time, as you know, money's always been my thing as well, the block. And then somebody actually told me the problem is not the money, it's your, it's your value you give yourself. And that is massive once we realize that, that the value that we are. And that is so much represented in the money that we're receiving. If we're not receiving the money, it's because somewhere we're not valuing who we are or what we do.
Yep, absolutely. And also I think I had an epiphany a couple of years ago where I was searching for the money, right? Especially when I started my business. When I was working in corporate and, making 6+ figures, you knew where your money was coming from. When you work for yourself, a lot of times you don't, right? And I was in that mode of struggle where you're searching for it, where you're trying to pull it to you. And I had this epiphany that was really the true understanding of what abundance is, that I generate the wealth. It is within me. It's within me to make decisions that build wealth, right? to value myself. So I'm pricing my services that value myself as well. So it's kind of a totally different way of looking at it once I understood that it was me that was the creator and the generation of abundance and wealth. And I didn't have to hunt it and pull for it and beg for it and search for it. Everything changed. And of course, I had to work on the story too, right?
Completely. That's really flipping it on the head. I think we all look, why isn't it coming in? But when we realize that everything is within.
Yep.
Massive.
I'm generating it. And it's crazy. Once I really started changing that thought process and getting rid of the old story that money is hard to come by and easy to burn, just all that kind of BS. And started telling myself, like I did with my weight, I can't believe it was this easy. I can't believe I get paid this much to do this. Like really, really changing that story in a dramatic way. I'm telling you, the checks that I get, I literally say that, like, I can't believe I'm getting paid this to do this. This is crazy. Like, this is crazy. I used to have to work 4 jobs and get like 1/18 of this, you know? So the results began to follow when the story changed.
Totally. I mean, you know, half of me, I think I never really completely believed in myself. I used to keep myself very, very small. And even the fact when I used to see myself, if I could visualize myself in a class, I would feel like a little kid. I would feel so, so small. And that's, I think, how I saw myself. And then obviously now my partner has really helped me to believe in that. And it's so funny because the minute he's really, you know, he believes in me so much, I had to believe myself, otherwise I'm doubting his word. So that got to me. And this is when this all changed. And now I'm sitting here with you, Sarah, and with my group and all the rest of the group that I've now built up, thinking, this is so easy. This is doing what I've always loved to do. This is what I taught you about, you know, back in 2014.
Yep.
And it is so easy. And when you've got the mindset right, it just rolls. You know, it's almost like with the marbles, when everything's lined up, the marbles just flow.
Yep. Yep. But as long as we think, oh, this is going to be hard, like what you said earlier, you know, if we're looking like, how do we get clients? That's so hard. Guess what? You're going to be pulling teeth for every single client. They're going to pay you 1/18 of what you deserve. And you're going to be beating your head against the wall going, why did I do this? As soon as you start to change that mindset to really saying, God, I cannot believe I get paid this for doing this. Like, this is freaking incredible. This is amazing. I can't believe so many people want my work.
Just as Monica just said, yeah, the floodgates are open. It really is that.
And that day comes when you're really like, holy shit, seriously? That's crazy.
Where was all this hiding before?
Yeah. That's awesome. I love it. Anybody else have any questions or thoughts, or does this help? Is this helpful? Are you guys learning? Yeah.
I'm a list maker. You know, I make lists for every step that I'm going through to get to my goal, because I like to check it off. It gives me the incentive to say, I've done this, I've done that. And I do put future things that I have to do on that same list that I'm making. It's just not very artistic or full of pictures or anything, although I am an artistic person. I love to collage and do all that stuff. But I think it really helps that I do the list, because I can look back on the previous pages, you know, when I feel like maybe I'm getting down, I look back on the previous pages and I go, look how far I've come.
Yeah.
You know, I'm feeling good now. And I have to think in your terms of flipping it, you know, whenever I feel that, oh, what am I going to do now? There's this barrier here. How am I going to get over this? But I think if I flip it, that's really going to help me move forward even better.
Absolutely. I love that. There's 2 steps in Hustle Believe Receive that have to do with that specifically. One is write it, which comes before we find any pictures, which is just writing down your plan, like writing down your goals, where you want to go, what you think it might take to get there, just getting that on paper, because that's a whole different side of our brain that we engage when we do that, especially when we're writing with pen and paper. And then do it, which is all about the hustle, is literally listing. It's going like, okay, I have this big dream, let's say to start the business or to whatever. And I identified a couple steps I would have to complete before I'm there. What if I just took one of those steps and brainstormed a quick list? And then every day I got up and said, I just want to knock out 2. or I just want to knock out one, right? So that every day you're moving forward, you're getting one step closer to your dream. And you're not kind of waking up going, oh, what do I need to do? What do I do? What do I do? And so I find them so helpful. I write down every single day. I always have a list next to me, but I think you would really love doing an authentic future board. So I definitely want to make sure everyone knows it's not vision boarding. So if you want to make a future board, you have to follow the steps. You have to do it exactly as written. Otherwise, you're not going to make a future board. But if you do, it will rock your world. And so it kind of takes what you're doing to a whole different level, but then gets you clarity in all these other areas that maybe you hadn't even thought about or hadn't, started to build out yet. And that's exactly what a future board does to me. Is I don't look at it, like I don't meditate on it or do anything crazy, but on the days when I'm facing an obstacle or I'm frustrated or I'm like, man, why is nothing happening? That's when I'll look at it and be like, holy shit, my life doesn't look anything like it looked like a year ago or 2 years ago. I guess I am growing. I guess it is happening, right? Because that's, I think, where it's super powerful. And if I look at the one that's on my wall, which is always 5 years in the future, that's where I'm like, okay, this is why I'm doing it. Because this is coming. This is what's next. This is in my pipeline. So.
And it's very true, Pat, as well, about looking back, because sometimes we're taking baby steps and we don't realize, we just think, we just keep going, keep going. And it's when we look back, 6 months, my goodness, if I look back to 2020, this time last year, my life is just completely flipped in every direction possible. And it's when you look back and see everything that you have done, you realize, well, no, I am doing the steps, I am doing the work, I'm still getting there. And to see, where I was.
Yep.
It's massive.
I love it. Anybody else? Well, I hope this was helpful. I hope you all learned something that you'll take and start applying and start doing, because that's where any of this gives you value. Otherwise, it doesn't do anything. So,
where can everybody find you, Sarah?
Yeah, so you'll find everything possible on sarahcentrella.com. Let me put it in the chat. If I can spell my own name. And Instagram is probably where I'm at more than anything else. But I do a circle for women. That's a coaching circle where women are getting just crazy, amazing results. And yeah.
Susie has a cat to watch as well.
What's that?
Susie had a cat. Her cat was just watching the screen the whole time. It was so funny.
Aw. All right, ladies. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Sarah. So lovely to see you. Take care. Bye, Sarah. You can all unmute yourselves if you want. So did anybody find that interesting? Did you get any golden nuggets or?
Yes, I found it very interesting. I tuned in a little bit later and I sat down in the living room, but then I went upstairs because I wrote some stuff down.
Excellent.
And I came in 10 minutes, 15 minutes after you started. Did you mention the steps for the future board, or can I find them anywhere? Or,
the steps are definitely in her book, in the Hustle, Believe, Receive. Susie,
is it for sale in
they're
Europe?
on her Instagram. There's a free future board training on her Instagram.
Okay.
So if you go to her Instagram into her link tree, you can sign up for it.
Okay.
Thank you, Susie.
Yep.
Has anyone done her future board?
I have because I worked with her back in 2014 when she was writing Hustle, Believe, Receive, and there were 6 of us who worked on a boot camp with her, and we did the 12 steps. Incredible. It shifted my life so much, really. And we worked all the way up from step 1 all the way up to creating the vision board, the future board. Yeah. I wouldn't have her on here and I wouldn't recommend her if I hadn't been through it and done it with her, and every step is so valid.
Yeah,
Nikki.
sounds good.
Who said
Did
Nikki?
you get one? Sorry.
Sorry,
Did you
Sarah.
get one-on-one?
Did I get
Did you get
with
like
her.
one-on-one with her?
one-on-one? No, because at that time it was a boot camp. There were 6 of us. No, I have done one-on-one with her.
Okay.
I have done
Yeah.
one-on-one right at the very beginning when she was starting out. It was quite funny because I'd followed Sarah from 2010. I was looking about vision boards and I found Sarah and the website. I thought, wow, she's amazing. And she was just working her way through her life as she was doing at that time. And then it must have been around about 2012, something like that, that she was looking for guinea pigs to start a coaching business. And I was her first guinea pig on one-on-one for coaching. And then
Yeah.
she started to write the book, and then we did, you know, the 6 of us did the boot camp together with her. And then I've also done obviously emotion code and Reiki with her as well when I did it for her.
Yeah.
And she's amazing. She shifts. Yeah, Patty.
I'm looking on Instagram now, and there is a Sarah Centrella Future Boards. Is that the post that we should go to? The one that we should follow? Because she has several. She has Sarah Centrella quotes just by herself. There's a show. And then I found one that says Future Boards.
The Instagram account or the post or the
Instagram.
Susie probably knows.
I would start, I mean, if she has more than one page, I would definitely start with her main page.
Yeah.
If you go to her link tree, it looks like this. I know it's backwards, but it has subscribe, so you can subscribe to her updates, podcast, so you could go right there and listen. Coaching, speaking, books, coaching circle, which she talked about, workshops, free future boards training.
Yeah.
Self Pride Challenge, join free, and then there's a link to her website.
Okay.
Yeah. And then you just fill in. You just fill in the details.
I would start there.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You know, and follow her, of course, because you know then you can be inspired regularly. Okay.
Yeah, she's good.
Do you guys mind giving me one of your takeaways? I came in so late. I mean, I just listened to the last 15 minutes of her.
It'll be, I've recorded it anyway, so I will put it in the group.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
awesome. Thank you.
I knew so many people couldn't make it. I thought we've got to video this. And I shall also be transferring the audio into a podcast as well, so be able to listen to it on the podcast. So I should do it in that way.
I think my big takeaway was, you know,
Thank
every
you.
day do some of the work. You know, I mean, I have been doing so much of this. It just, I don't know, it's part of me. But, you know, I think, you know, getting your thoughts really clear on what it is that you want, and then magnifying it. She said, you know, what does 10 times, 20 times it look like? I'm very curious about what her future boards look like versus the vision board stuff.
The actual, the future board and the vision board, the end result kind of looks the same. No writing on it, just pure images, but it's the difference is the work you do beforehand that really creates a process. Because a vision board, a lot of people will just they'll take an image. Okay, I want a car. What type of car? I'll stick that on. What type of house? And it's all parts. Whereas a future board, you're taking your whole life as a complete integrated process, and it's the work up to it that you do it. But really, the future board is the final step of the 12, and there's so much you end up doing beforehand. So, and she was also talking about the emotion code that I've done with her. And I'm going to be offering everybody in the group a free 30-minute session with me.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's so generous and lovely.
So because everybody's coming in, you know, there's always going to be blocks, and that will be open to any time you want it. It's not just during the certification course. If afterwards, you know, you haven't got time now, you know, 2 months down the line, if you want that free 30-minute session, if you need it to clear some, and that works on anything, whether we can either do it general, or we can work on a specific issue in your life where something's not working. We can work through that and release some emotions behind it. So, and that will be, to everybody in this group. So actually putting that in later. So I think we're almost out of time. Yes, we are. It's out of time. Anybody else? Any questions before we switch off? No.
Oh, thank you very much for arranging it.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Yeah, thank you too.
Thank you for arranging,
Thank you.
and thank you for the emotion session.
You're
Yes.
welcome. Yeah, I'll put details in the group. Yeah, and I think you'll all benefit from it in some way.
See you
Take care,
Sunday.
everybody. Goodbye.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Bye bye.